Sanish, thank you so much for coming on the show. Honored to meet you. Honored to have you here. You are the CEO of Legion Technologies. Tell us how you got there.
Yeah, so I'll start with just telling what Legion does, and then we'll talk about how I got here. So Legion, we serve to exist frontline workers and the companies that hire them. So we build this platform that is called workforce management. So workforce management basically helps labor-intensive industries better manage their labor force, which are typically hourly workers. Industries like retail, hospitality, healthcare, manufacturing. So basically service-oriented and labor-intensive industries. And from an employee standpoint, Legion provides them experience, greater experience and greater satisfaction in doing these jobs by enabling them to get better schedules, but modern experience through mobile apps and getting paid instantly after the shift is over. So these types of capabilities. How I got here was my background is in enterprise software, so I've been in some version of enterprise software for well over 20 years at this point. I was prior to founding Legion, I was the chief product officer at SAP. Prior to that, I was chief product officer at this company called Ariba that was bought by SAP back a little over 10 years ago now. So in my journey of building enterprise software platforms and applications, one of the things, and this happened after I left SAP. I was just fascinated by how little technology and innovation is helping advance the nature of the jobs and the experiences of the employees that we see. Every day, all of us are interacting with frontline workers in some shape or form, right? Whether it's at grocery stores or cafes or restaurants or retail stores, but they're using very archaic and obsolete ways. There is not much that's improved in their fundamental experience for decades. And as a technologist, as a product builder, I initially I was drawn by just curiosity on why that is the case. That curiosity over a period of time turned into kind of a calling and a passion and really a deep sort of motivation in solving that problem. So that's how I got here. We are now 8 years into the journey, and I feel as strongly as I did on day one. And it's been great.
That's awesome. What did you learn at SAP? That's in it. Were you there when Bill McDermott was CEO?
Absolutely. I was there when Bill McDermott was the CEO, and he was actually responsible for the acquisition of Ariba, and so pretty much that period of time.
That's very cool. And you recently raised $50 million in a growth round. What was that process like? Tell us how you got to a point where you're like, hey, let's really throw some gas on this fire.
Yeah. So I think this is a sort of like any companies like. I would imagine other companies that are in Legion stage. It's it's a process of figuring out what your build is of value, and then figuring out how do you get the product to as many customers as possible. And along the way, there are these inflection points, right, where you feel like you could use more capital to go faster or do better or whatever the case might be. Legion is at a point where we feel going global and serving markets in more countries and serving our customers better by just doing more of what we are doing. So we're well past product market fit. We feel like this is what we have is working. It is a matter of now, of course, doing that better. So there's continuous improvement elements to it, but also doing that on a bigger and broader scale. So that was the realization we had sometime last year, and then we paused for the right timing for raising a round because there were all these interesting things going on last year with the banking crisis and things of that nature. So we did a round. We initiated that late last year, and we completed that in the second quarter of this year.
Oh, that's incredible. And so what's the idea here? Like, how do you grow this thing even more?
Yeah. So if you think about fundamentally what we do, right, we are we are a platform that serves employees and employers both. That is our value proposition. So, and that is what employers want. That is what employees want. There is a lot of common ground which has not really been explored in workforce management platforms before. They were very much oriented towards the labor efficiency and cost control, which are very important goals, but they are very employer centric. And when you over-index on that, employee experiences suffer, and the turnover in these industries is very, very high. We wanted to achieve the right balancing act. So that's been the message. That's been the product capabilities. Now, when you take a step back, you can sort of just quickly come to the conclusion through just basic math that actually it's a very broad problem statement. This balanced perspective of managing labor applies to all labor-intensive industries. We are talking about retail with 30 plus million workers in the US. We are talking about healthcare and manufacturing with each one of them 12 to 15 million workers. We're talking about service industry, financial industry. There are basically somewhere between 75 to 80 million hourly workers in the US serving these labor-intensive industries. When you take a step back even further, there are over 2 billion hourly workers in the world. So the problem statement and the headroom to grow here is almost boundless. And so the way we think about it is, of course, we have to grow one step at a time, but each one of those steps can be very meaningful and impactful. For example, going from retail and hospitality to healthcare, that would substantially increase our addressable market, which is we are in the process of doing that right now. Or going from predominantly selling to the US based customers to adding Europe. And that would again substantially increase our addressable market. So those are the type of very impactful growth vectors that we think can be unlocked with some investment and obviously a lot of execution. So that's how we are sort of mapping out Legion's growth. And as I said, the size of the market and the headroom here is so much that we could be sort of doing that one impactful step at a time for a long period of time and continue growing the company.
What does a typical day look like for you?
Lots of remote meetings over Zoom. So Legion is a remote first company. We went basically fully remote after the pandemic, like many others did, and we never looked back. Our goal was to not just the goal is to not just think about being remote as a phase that we are going through, but we want to really be good at it. We truly believe this is by and large the way at least technology work is going to happen in the future. That's what employees want. Now we got to figure out how to take the friction points like employee onboarding and other things and make them work and improve all those things. Back to the question, yes, lots of remote meetings over Zoom. I try to divide my week into sort of the time spent over 4 categories. One is, of course, sales/growth. Then it's product innovation, technology. Third is customers. So, existing customers and, meeting our customer sponsors and building a relationship with them. And last but definitely not the least, people, employees and, candidates that we are trying to recruit. So these are sort of how I've bucket my week and the time. And I'm one of those people who color codes the meeting calendar and, everything is sort of organized. In addition to that, I'm very disciplined about working out every day and taking care of my health. I think everybody should do that. That is the the most important thing you've got. So that's sort of my the main things that I spend time on in a day.
How are you thinking about artificial intelligence?
I think it is, there's I'm sure you've heard this, people talk about it like overhyped in the near term, underhyped in the long term. I truly believe that with artificial intelligence. So just taking a step back, Legion was founded with we had 2 fundamental goals of where we wanted to evolve workforce management. One was make it more employee centric, as I talked about the balance. And the other is to automate workforce management using data. So in our customer organizations, workforce management is a critical platform that gets used every single day. So to schedule employees, to capture time, you can imagine it is like a daily operational and mission critical platform. Well, it's also a great candidate to fully automate. If you are going to do the same thing over and over, it's not a high value thing to do manually and repeat the same things and spend time doing the same things over and over again. So we aspired, this was our founding thesis, we aspired to fully automate workforce management, and we had to from day one lean a lot on AI. So in Legion, we have a lot of uh, almost all our customers use AI in some shape or form, whether it is to predict demand. For if you're a retailer, knowing how many customers that you have for a particular given day or time would allow you to accurately plan labor. So demand forecasting is huge, and we use machine learning and deep learning for that. We schedule optimization, figuring out who's the right person to be placed at the right time based on employee skills and work preferences, so both sides are happy. Those types of things are, we use some pretty deep adoption of AI. Now, more recently, of course, there is a lot of focus on generative AI. And generative AI has a very unique value proposition for applications like Legion, like workforce management as a category. Because if you think about, we predominantly serve deskless workers, right? So they're not sitting at a computer like technology workers or many other type of jobs out there. They are out facing customers. They are out on a factory floor. They are out in distribution centers. So how do they interface with the platform that is workforce management, which is going to assign tasks to them, which they have to mark complete, or it will assign schedules and shifts, and these things are changing all the time without being in front of the computer. Well, generative AI offers a great step forward by providing a natural language interface that can be mapped to all the complexities of workforce management, business processes, and workflows. So we think about generative AI as giving that layer of natural language conversations that users of Legion can use to not just interface and get information like a Q&A type of thing, like a chat GPT, but also execute actions. They can say, hey, Joe is not, a manager can say, Joe is running late right now. I'll find a replacement for Joe's shift that starts in 30 minutes. And Legion can take that and map it back to the right actions inside of workforce management and present some options to the manager, or just go and execute it depending on what the instruction was. These types of things are now very, very feasible, and we have started to productize them, these conversational capabilities through Legion's assistants, AI assistants. So we are very bullish with AI. We feel like it is especially generative AI is the final piece of the sort of the puzzle here, which would truly turn workforce management into this conversational intelligent service that you don't have to log in, but you as a retail worker or as a service worker or a frontline employee or a manager or a district manager can fully interface and with that platform and get a lot of value without learning the platform or without necessarily engaging with the platform in a software in a conventional software manner.
How are you thinking about leadership now? Does leadership change? Like, what are some like characteristics and traits of leadership that you think are really important? And will AI affect any of those?
I think so. I mean, I think uh, when you think about leaders and leadership, I mean, just my sort of philosophy across the board, regardless of what you are leading, whether you are leading a technology company or a services company or a goods or software, whatever it might be, there are sort of the three most important things for a leader to have. Is obviously first is vision and strategic thinking. You have to know the calculus of how you're navigating your company or your team or your department or whatever it might be against micro and macro goals both, and it's the leader's job to basically have this in their minds and have a plan for it, and look around the corners and whatever however you want to describe it, but that's, to me, is vision and strategic thinking. The second thing is emotional intelligence, knowing the people, knowing the team, knowing the strengths and weaknesses of yourself and your team, and how do you, obviously improve that, but also work with it, right? That's motivating people, leading them with positive reinforcement, and last but not the least, effective communication. There could be a lot of things that you have in your mind that you need to translate that into the right words, or whether it's spoken words or written words at the right time, and to get the right output from whether it's your employees, your customers, all of that stuff. If you think about, these are the three sort of mainstays of a leadership role. How can AI help? Actually, in all of them. Strategic thinking, whether you like it or not, you have to have a plan for AI. You have to have a plan for whether you are going to be a user of AI in your organization, or you are going to be a producer of AI powered capabilities like we are. This is something we cannot just kind of be on the sidelines. I don't think anybody at the leadership level can be, just watching and not reacting to what's going on right now. At a minimum, just adopting AI in your organization to increase productivity, right? You should have a plan for that at a minimum, right? So that's basically the strategic part of the thinking. But effective communication, we've had internally at Legion our goals for example, content production, right? Like blogs and like other things. We have increased our ambition to produce content by 10x, because we have now just the productivity tools have completely gotten rid of things like writer's block and all the things we would sort of sit in front of a computer and stare and say, well, what am I going to write a blog about? Well, you don't have that problem anymore.
Mhm, mhm.
And that's just one example: writing code, testing code, generating test cases. All of these things are any type of communication, any type of language, any type of written or computer code, or all these things have gone through already in the last 2 years of generative AI. Early stages of generative AI, I think they've already gone through quantum leaps. Companies and leaders who are going to understand it, take the effort to understand it. You don't need to be an expert in how it works, but you need to really have a point of view on what it's going to do to your organization and your product or your customers, and have a plan for it. I believe that is it's an imperative for leaders now.
Yeah. What are you reading? What reading recommendations would you have for us?
I read a lot of my sort of content consumption is sporadic, and blogs. I'm a huge sort of blog reader, and podcasts. On
Mhm.
2x speed is a. I mean, some of these podcasts are like 4 hours, and I just heard I didn't go through it, but there was the latest Elon Musk and Lex Friedman was 8.5 hours.
Yeah, can you
That's
believe that?
that is insane. But I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff in there. So I learn a lot through sort of, podcasts and blogs and things like that. On the books, uh, I tend to read sort of non-technology books. It offers me a good outlet to, learning things other than what I'm organically learning through my role and my colleagues and other things. So most recently I've been reading about this David Sinclair's it's a longevity book around lifespans and why we age, and the claim of why we don't have to, and uh, it's a fascinating read about thinking about aging as more as a disease than as a natural process that everybody has to go through. And just I'm kind of 25% through it, but it's been great so far.
Yeah, that's super interesting, actually. That's cool. How do you stay grounded? How do you maintain your mental health?
As I was saying before, I think one of the most important things for anybody to do, no matter what you're doing or no matter what your role is or how important you think your role is to find time for to take care of your own health. And that is it's a matter of, just good habits. I think it's just, You don't have to necessarily go and spend hours working out and stuff like that, but just doing something every day. At least my take on that has a bigger impact than probably anything else you could do. In terms of taking care of your health. So to me, the most important thing from mental health standpoint is is just health. I mean, it's you. I like working out every day, even if it's like 10 minutes. But I will work out every single day. I do intermittent fasting. I like that for a lot of reasons. Those are if those are things that to me are part of my day, just like having a meal is. Like, it's not a negotiation. It is not a. It's just something that I will do every single day. That is core to mental health. And then other than that, just focus on the things that you can control. Acknowledge the things that you cannot control, so you know they're out there. You can see them, but they're not within your control, and so there isn't a don't waste time stressing over it. I think just being kind to people around you, is I think it goes both ways, and it comes back and helps you when you need that kindness back from others. So these are simple things to do in a day. The hard part about all these things I mentioned is to turn it into a habit that you do consistently day after day, and I think that is where some work is needed, some sort of efforts are needed, but it's totally worth it. And I truly speak from my own experiences of past 8 years building Legion. There are more bad days than good days, as any entrepreneur will tell you, and you need something that is grounding for you, which is not actually tied to just your company's accomplishments. And these are sort of the things for me.
We're talking on a day where the stock market is having a really rough day, and it appears like that might continue for a little bit. How do you think about the macroeconomic environment? And also, like, obviously we're in the middle of an election in the United States. There's elections in 20, 25 countries this year. As you think about just kind of macroeconomic and then just macro in general, what are we looking at here over the next 6 months to a year?
Firstly, I would start by saying I wish I knew. The past 18 months, have been pretty turbulent in many, many ways, especially when you think about a macro, whether it's financial, political, economical, even social. And I think that what we are seeing today is that we are far from that turbulence being over, right? Which way it would go and what exactly would happen is anybody's guess. But going back to the point I was saying earlier, control what you can. And for us at Legion, for me personally as a leader of Legion, controlling what I can is making sure we are staying focused on the things that we need to do that are in front of us. So we have to build great products. We have to continue helping our customers who are also going through that same turbulence. And if we can help them be less worried about how labor will be managed, right? Or if we can help our users, largely the frontline workforce, get a little more satisfaction from the schedules and the experience of working and getting paid instantly after the shift is over. So there is some financial wellness and relief on that part. Then we are doing our part in helping both our customers and also advancing the company. So it's sort of that's how I think about it. So focusing on that is also an antidote from pressing out about other things that we can't help. I'll also say this. I firmly believe Legion is working on a very durable problem. It is, I mean, we're talking about labor. We're talking about hourly work. We're talking about these labor-intensive industries, which are massive, and they're not going away. And they've seen a lot of financial collapses and other crises and things like that, and they're still around. And we all, use and love those industries. The long term macro, I'm very bullish about, but I do think that the phase of turbulence we are nowhere close to that being kind of we don't see the end line on that yet.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. We might just be at the beginning of it. Finally, we end every interview with the exact same question, and that is at CEO.com. We believe the chances one gives is just as important as the chances one takes. When you hear that, who gave you a chance to get you to where you are today?
I think there have been many people who, gave me a chance. I've always had mentors. I've always had people that I go to for advice, and sometimes they may not know it, but they have actually unlocked a decision or opened a door for me, and so I'm always grateful for that. In Legion's case specifically, in my very early days when I was really on the fence with how to go about building it and where do I start? Do I start with building the software? Do I start with working with a customer? Do I start with, talking to investors and raising when I was going through that very, very early phase of Legion, I happened to meet Jacob Jaber, who was the founder and CEO of Phil's Coffee. And I had just gone to pitch the idea of Legion to him. And we sat down at their headquarters. Back then it was near Dark Patch in San Francisco. And he really loved the idea, and he kind of challenged me on a couple of points. We had a great discussion, and he said, "Hey, if you build it, I will use it." And that was I wasn't expecting that. And then furthermore, he said, "I'll also help you build it. I'll give you office space, upstairs, which was the office, and I will give you access to my locations, and you can work with the store managers and work with the baristas and do your research and do what you need to do to get off the ground." And that was, extremely impactful. And furthermore, after that, they became our first customer. They rolled out, nationwide. I got a lot of feedback from Phil's. So I think specifically for Legion's journey, I think that was pretty instrumental. And I'm very grateful for that.
Sanish, so great to talk to you. Seriously, congratulations on everything you're doing. You're building an incredible product, an incredible company. Would love to have you back on again to talk about it as you progress here. Seriously, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you. Would love to be back.
Thank you.